Dear friends, Shana Tova, once again. As many of you know, Temple Emanu-El has developed very close ties with Israel's diplomatic offices in New York, for which we're very grateful. Throughout the year, we worked together with the consulate to strengthen liberal Jewry's commitment to Israel and Israel's commitment to liberal Jewry. And through their generosity for 11 years now, we have been privileged each Rosh Hashanah to welcome a representative of Israel's government to greet us and offer insights on the goings-on in our spiritual homeland. Certainly much has transpired there since last year at this time. And so this afternoon, I am honored to welcome to Temple Emanu-El the new Deputy and Acting Consul General of Israel in New York, Tsach Saar. As Acting Consul General, Tsach oversees the diplomatic activity of Israel's New York consulate, and so builds relationships with elected officials and community leaders across its large jurisdiction of New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Delaware. New York marks Tzach's fourth foreign assignment as an Israeli diplomat. Prior to this posting, he served as Deputy Head of Mission at the Embassy of Israel in Athens, Counselor for Culture and Science of Israel in Berlin, and Deputy Ambassador of Israel in Albania. Before joining the Foreign Service, he spent 4 years as a parliamentary advisor at the Knesset. Born in Tel Aviv in 1984, Tsach Saar obtained his BA in Political Science and Communication from Tel Aviv University and earned an MA in Law from Bar Ilan University. In addition to Hebrew, he speaks English and German and is also a disc jockey. He's married to Israeli lawyer Guy Arad, with whom he is lovingly raising 2 children. I've had the privilege of meeting Tsach Saar twice now, and of course I informed him of the subjects I addressed this morning. It takes but a moment upon meeting him to recognize in him a consul general who cares very deeply about the communities he serves. He is as committed to representing our concerns to his government as he is to representing his government to us. Personally, I look forward to the coming year of partnership so important to all of us. And so I am deeply honored and most grateful to welcome Deputy and Acting Consul General Tsach Saar to Temple Emanu-El on this first day of 5784.
After you speak, will you take some questions? Sure. Okay, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Davidson. Josh, thank you. Thank you very much for having me here today. It's a great privilege for me. So it is an honor to join you today as we usher in a new year, a time of reflection, opportunity, and change. And it is especially significant for me since Rosh Hashanah coincides with the beginning of my term in New York as Acting Consul General. Jewish tradition emphasizes finding special meaning in 2 things: the cyclicality of life on the one hand, and the newness of experience on the other. The former manifests in ritual, in investment, in the everyday. It presents opportunities to build deep relationships with a family and community over significant periods of time. The latter idea of optimizing new opportunities manifests in novel life circumstances, responsibilities, and ever-forward march of life. It gives us the chance to start afresh, to branch out and to widen our perspectives, to build bridges, to build empathy. Just a few weeks ago, I was in Athens, concluding my service to the State of Israel as Deputy Ambassador to Greece. That had been my post for 3 years, itself following postings in Germany and Albania. In each location, I try to develop genuine connections with local communities without losing sight of where I came from. On the contrary, I strove to let my roots inform my decisions and outlook every step of the way. Striking the balance of rootedness and newness is never easy. To identify elements of our personal and national pasts to revere, while also seeking new connections and trying to find ourselves, can be overwhelming and frightening. The middle path often seems the most precarious, at least from the outside. But thankfully, the Jewish calendar, in its wisdom, allows for and embraces these challenges. It presents us with Rosh Hashanah, a beginning, a new place, as it were, to evaluate our situations and extend our hands to each other. It is followed by Yom Kippur, a time of introspection. We evaluate what we have been doing right and those areas in which we need to improve. We look down into our souls and up towards Hashem with the knowledge that sometimes we don't have all the answers. These days of awe are then succeeded by Sukkot. At this point, we have resolved to begin anew the journeys we know we must take. We have taken an uncompromising look at ourselves and committed to fix what needs fixing. Now, we can build our tabernacles, our dwellings of gladness, of resting and of feasting. We can enjoy the fruit of our labor. We can rejoice in the progress we have made as individuals and channel the tradition of Ushpizin, inviting guests to share the joy with others. Recognizing the ephemerality of our Sukkot, we throw open our doors and endeavor to channel the big tent of Avraham Avinu, who asked not where his guests came from, but only whether they would join him at this table. To my mind, these ideas form the foundation of the global Jewish family, the ties that bind us across borders, languages, and politics. This time of year remind us that Kol Israel arevim ze baze or ze laze, all Israel are responsible for each other. Whether separated by a couple of avenue blocks or the vastest deserts and seas, we can and should invite one another to our respective Sukkot, physically and metaphorically, and endeavor to deepen our bonds. Behind me, or next to me, are two great flags symbolizing two great miracles of modern age. The flag of the United States of America, representing the notion that all men and women are created equal, and the flag of the State of Israel, representing the millennia-old dream of the renewal of Jewish life in our people's historic home. These stories are unparalleled and deeply intertwined, as both nations' founders clearly understood. And for Jewish people here or anywhere else in the world, that bond is a foundational part of their identity. A Jew in New York City is no less anchored to Jerusalem than a Jew in Tel Aviv or Talpiot. This became overwhelmingly clear to me during the course of my aforementioned postings in Albania, Germany, and Greece. The modern Jewish experience is incredibly diverse, and there are so many struggles, challenges, and simple nuances of Jewish life in one place that find little parallel with those of another. Anti-Semitism, especially, takes many different forms in the wings of different countries' political compasses. But as I traveled from Jewish community to Jewish community, advocating for Israel, fighting anti-Jewish hate, and finding comfort in Jewish unity and tradition, I also realized that the universality of Judaism across place and time is very, very real. It is no accident that we all orient ourselves toward Jerusalem in prayer, wherever we might be. We ask God to rebuild and protect it, to hasten the restoration of the kingdom of David, the establishment of Jewish sovereignty. We pray that this throne, literal or metaphorical, will be everlasting. We pray for peace. And certainly we know that the whole world is stronger and better off when Israel is safe and secure. Undoubtedly, the path we walk is not without its fair share of obstacles. The struggles we face are echoes of ancient battles refashioned for a modern era. Just as our ancestors faced pharaohs and Caesars, we too face contemporary challenges that test our resolve. Whether external threats or internal debates, each challenge is a crucible that shapes us, both as individuals and as a community. Now, let us be candid. Millions of Jews around the world will not always agree on which path to take. Just as a family might debate passionately questions of identity, education, and faith, so do we within our larger community. But this diversity of thought isn't our weakness, it is our strength. The beauty of Rosh Hashanah and the season of introspection that follows is that it affords us the opportunity not just to voice our own opinions, but to listen to those of others. We are granted the chance to etch our unique perspectives onto the ever-unfolding parchment of the Jewish story. As we stand at the cusp of a new year and a new chapter in our collective journey, we should be fortified by the lessons of Jewish tradition and the wisdom of the Jewish calendar. Let us appreciate the balance between the comfort of the familiar and the thrill of the new. As the shofar sounds this Rosh Hashanah, let it awaken in us not just a sense of awe, but a sense of purpose. With every blast, let us remind ourselves of the resilience we have shown, the unity we possess, and the promises of a brighter present and a brighter tomorrow. Shana Tova.
Thank you, Consul General Saar. The Consul General has certainly indicated that he's happy to answer any questions that you might have. And so I'll give you a moment to think of any, and if you have, I'd invite you to raise your hand. I would ask you to phrase it in the form of a question, and then we'll hear the answer. Yeah, please.
As everybody's aware, there's recently been an amendment to the Basic Law having to do with the power of the Supreme Court of Israel. I recently, and of course it's now before the Supreme Court of Israel, sitting in what we call en banc, all of the justices to decide whether or not that amendment to the Basic Law contradicts essentially, I guess, the essence of Israel. I recently heard your Prime Minister say that, well, the Supreme Court can't overturn an amendment to the Basic Law any more than the Supreme Court of the United States could overturn an amendment to the United States Constitution. But the difference is that an amendment to the United States Constitution takes a two-thirds vote in the House, a two-thirds vote in the Senate, and ratification by three-quarters of the states, so that we don't get amendments unless there is broad support in the entire country for an amendment. Whereas Basic Law apparently can be amended by just a majority vote in the Knesset, like changing the parking violation fines.
So the question is,
The question is, does this make any sense at all? I mean, is this just nonsense that's being put out in support of a revolutionary change in Israel?
thank you. Okay, so I'm going to ask you maybe to rephrase the question so that everybody can hear it, and then you provide your perspective on it.
How do I rephrase such a question? So I'll just assume that everybody heard. Is that okay? It was basically a question about the changes of the judicial system in Israel and what the future might bring, or what's the purpose behind it. Is that okay?
Well, it's just a question of whether it's analogous to the power of the Supreme Court of the United States.
I'll try to refer in general to the judicial reform or changes in our judicial system. And I'll say that maybe it's time for us in Israel to take some very difficult decisions because we don't have a constitution, not like the United States. We have the Declaration of Independence. We have basic laws from 92, then later. And maybe now it's the time for us to have our discussion within ourselves about how we see the balance between the judiciary, the legislature, and the executive in Israel. Maybe the privilege of not dealing with this directly, with these difficult questions, is over. And what I see in Israel is a very, very big debate, by the way, in Israel and outside Israel. And we see that this debate is very, very emotional. And so it should be, because it's about the future of the state of Israel and the delicate balance between the different branches of our regime. And I see in this debate the beauty of democracy, because this is so emotional, and we see the involvement of people going out to the streets, and we see how the government is passionate about it, and in a sense that truly believes in the changes that the government would like to see. So I think, as I mentioned in my speech, in my presentation, I think that's the most important part. I can get into details, whether this change is okay, this change is problematic, this might bring problems in the future. But definitely, this discussion is important. And maybe we don't have a privilege anymore to put it aside and say, okay, we have the basic laws, we don't have a constitution, and we can live with that. Okay.
Yeah.
I think you have a very good answer, but I don't know if people know that there's no such a thing in the United States as a doctrine of reasonableness. And the Supreme Court of the United States cannot say, this is not reasonable. Okay, so it doesn't exist in the United States. So that's number one. There was an editorial in the Wall Street Journal a while back that whenever a right of center government wins an election, doesn't matter where, the other side, the left side of center, cried, end of democracy, dictatorship, that's what happens everywhere. It happened in Italy. But there is an understanding by certain people that this is not about the change of the reasonableness law. This is about trying to get rid of Netanyahu and his religious affiliate parties that create the government. And that's nothing to do, all the reforms, all the demonstrations and the plans of the demonstrations started even before the government was formed. Like Gewalt, they say in English, that Netanyahu got selected. So it's known by legal minds that there is an imbalance in Israel, that the Supreme Court has too much power. So the question is, what do you think about the fact that people want to try to get rid of Netanyahu, and that's what it's all about? Not about resistance to the judicial changes, but dislike of Netanyahu, and that's what it's all about.
I wouldn't go to people's intentions, but if people protest and if people would like to see another government, I think that's the most beautiful thing that we have in democracy. Whether these things are intertwined, I mean the opposition to the current government and the judicial reform by itself, or if it's just by opposing overall what the current government is policy. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that's, again, the beautifulness in our democracy, that we have an opposition, that people can go out to the streets in mass and protest, and keep this protest relatively calm and not violent. And I'm talking about, the numbers of people. You see the pictures coming from Israel. So this is again another sign of our vibrant democracy. It's not a bad thing to oppose the current government.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay, yeah, no, I did mean her. So 1, 2, sorry. Neil, just, yeah, sorry. Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, okay.
Also, a speech is okay. We're here for a dialogue.
Wait, hang on.
So,
let's,
yeah, just,
whoever's calling, let's just. Is that? Can we just turn that off?
If you can just also say your name so I can... Nancy. Hi, Nancy.
Increasing rapprochement between Israel and Saudi Arabia. And so, you know, I think we know the reasons why, and where do you see prospects and benefits of that?
Sorry, why do...
Prospects and benefits of increasing cooperation and rapprochement between Israel and Saudi Arabia.
Okay. Well, Saudi Arabia. So basically, the benefits of a rapprochement between Israel and Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia is a very, very important regional player and a very important religious player that has that is home to the most sacred places for Islam, Sunni Islam. I know there's a very interesting window of opportunity right now for I wouldn't call it a peace, but understandings between Saudi, or some kind of normalization between Israel and Saudi Arabia. From my point of view, normalization between states is always a good thing, because then you have a direct and open dialogue. So even if you have some things that you don't agree on, you have better channels to talk about things. Saudi Arabia has a lot of influence in the Arab world because of its religious role, not only as a regional power. And of course, it is geographically located in a very strategic area. So if we can start by talking to the Saudis from the leaders level, so it will be top down, and we can start also dialogue with the people. It is well known that there are some problems of anti-Semitism in Saudi Arabia. There are anti-Israeli trends in Saudi Arabia, and I think this could be a good start for a dialogue not only between the leaders but also among the people. And again, it projects, and if we take also the strategic position of where it is geographically on the map, now we hear some plans about transport routes. These things build bridges, not just routes for goods. So definitely beneficial to all sides, and especially with the involvement of the United States within the whole process. Welcome.
Okay. Hi, my name is Neil. I want to ask you for your comments about something that's much more fundamental and perhaps difficult to address than just the nuts and bolts of the judicial reform. I think as an American Jew, part of the reform movement, I think that there's been, that I speak for a number of people, not everybody, that there has been a lot of despair, disappointment, and anger in regards to some of the actions and words, behavior of the Israeli government over the past couple of years. After Charlottesville, we were all waiting when, in my mind, God was asking where other Jews are and waiting for Netanyahu to say Hineni, and there was nothing. And after years of ardent support for Israel, feel that it's kind of a one-way street. And especially after recent actions like the appointment of the diaspora minister, who is very disdainful of Reform Judaism and LGBTQ rights, the whole question of what is meant by what you refer to as Kol Yisrael, or Am Yisrael, comes to be in doubt. And my question is, how do you address Reform Jews, especially young Reform Jews, of which there are none here, that they should be supportive of Israel and love Israel and not feel that we are not necessary anymore, or that there's no concern about what our needs are and what our desires and our versions of Judaism?
Well, first of all, I think that involvement and the fact that people care is the most important thing. And this is the foundations of the contact between the State of Israel and the Jews in North America, or in general, the diaspora Jews. I will not refer specifically to disappointment of a specific minister or another, but of course there are disagreements, there are challenges, and that's why we're here. We're here as a consulate to have this dialogue, to reflect back to Jerusalem how the Jewish communities, we do many things, yeah, but among what we do is, our role is to reflect what the Jewish communities in the United States and all over in the world feel, so the stakeholders in Jerusalem can take better decision and to be aware of the ramifications of this or that decision. So the importance is of the dialogue, the fact that what you're saying now is not new to me, and definitely not new to the stakeholders, to the decision makers in Jerusalem. So it's a dialogue, and when a decision is being made, our role is to make sure that the one who takes this decision or another would have all the ramification and in front of him or her. I understand the challenges, of course, and we make sure, and we are trying to do our best to reflect your feelings. And this is also why, one of the reasons that I'm here, to hear, to listen, and to convey the message back to Jerusalem. And the fact that you're mentioning this again and putting 1, 2, 3 things that maybe can be a challenge to the reform movement and the State of Israel relationship, this is something that if I hear it from you, if I hear it from someone else, if my colleagues in other places in the United States hear it, then it's a critical mass, and we can make sure that the decision makers in Jerusalem would see it.
Thank you for your answer. I think this is a bit of a follow-up to the question that was just asked. So I was very inspired by what Rabbi Davidson had to say and taken aback by his experience in being, to quote, stiff-armed. He can explain it to you if you didn't have an opportunity to hear from him. So what are your obstacles, if you both described yourself as partners in his introduction and your own introductory remarks? What are the obstacles to you being able to advocate, not just report back on a dialogue, but actually advocate for this community and the values and the expressed feelings that you're hearing today, and certainly we heard from Rabbi Davidson?
Sorry, yes. No, I just we probably had some kind of misunderstanding that I was not here during your speech. Yes, definitely. But I didn't come here just to speak. I came to hear you. So we had, I was not late or something, we had maybe some kind of a misunderstanding. I'm aware of these difficulties and sometimes bad experience as Rabbi Davidson had. And again, this is our job after this kind of meeting, wouldn't say incident, meeting, to talk to the members of Parliament, to talk to the people who sent us here before and after, and to reflect to them that every word they say has a meaning. And again, they are the elected ones. So they can take their decision, but our role is to make sure before and after that they have the whole picture.
I guess perhaps I wasn't clear in my question, so I'll make it very specific, because I don't know what your own experience is. What I'd like to know, as somebody in your position, what are the obstacles that you experience from your government in being able to put forth a view that you might hear here that you are trying to share on our behalf, which we appreciate, but what are the obstacles you experience to being able to implement that?
The obstacles that I experience here or from...
In Israel.
Well, no, I'm just trying to... The obstacle in the within the Jewish community in the United States or in Israel to advocate here.
I believe the question was
okay,
in...
okay.
Excuse me.
Look, I'm representing the state of Israel. I'm not representing the Jewish communities around the world. I am the envoy, in that case, from the state of Israel to the Jewish community. So, of course, there are difficulties, as you mentioned, like specific issues that of disagreement between the reform movement and the state of Israel. I'm very much aware of it. So, when things like you described, this I take back, and I convey the message back, and also I make an analysis, and I'm saying it's this and that, and I'm trying to give my assessment about the trends. Okay, I am not advocating the reform movement. The most important thing is, in my eyes, is to make sure and to maintain the connection between the state of Israel and the diaspora Jews, because I think this is a very important part of our Jewish identity, and I refer to these things in the things that I've said. And as long, I think that the greatest danger is when people do not care anymore. The most important thing that I see, if I see people, not Israelis, but even diaspora Jews, when they protest, when they critique Israel and its legitimate criticism, it's a very fine line. Let's not go there, because we can have a discussion of hours long of what is legitimate criticism. But as long as people care, it means that they are connected, that Israel is part of their identity, and that's good. The bad thing, the danger, is when people do not care anymore. So that's why I'm trying to reflect the obstacles and trying to bridge the disagreements. But I'm not advocating I'm just presenting.
Let's come up this way. How about over here in the corner?
Oh, Mr. Wilner. Dr. Wilner.
My question is about, can you hear me?
Right
Can you hear me? My question is about some of the consequences of the Abraham Accords. With those parts of the Arab world with whom Israel signed the Accords, are there at the moment full diplomatic Israeli ambassadors there? And in turn, are there ambassadors from those countries in Israel?
What's the question about Abraham Accords? What's the question?
What was the question? Just repeat the question itself. What was the question?
Repeat it?
Yeah, just repeat it.
Yeah. With the Abraham Accords that Israel signed with parts of the Arab world, my question is, as of now, are there actually Israeli ambassadors in those areas, and in turn, do those areas have ambassadors in Israel?
Yes. We have ambassador in Manama, we have ambassador in Abu Dhabi, we have a consul general in Dubai, and there's Emirati ambassador in Israel. By the way, the new premises of our embassy in Manama was just recently inaugurated, and I must say, even with this, with this issue of Abraham Accords, we already see the fruits of these accords, not only in the sense of bilateral trade or bilateral investments with these countries, and we also see, for example, progress in fight of anti-Semitism. This is one of the issues that Israel also promotes, and this is also in the agenda with these countries, and it starts with education. So we see progress in the school books, for example, that we put it on the table with our Emirati and Bahraini counterparts, and we see change on the ground.
So thank you for being here. I have a question. Just what is the biggest opportunity for Israel, and what is the biggest threat?
That's a very general question. Well, threats, we can talk for hours, starting from Iran, Hezbollah, Palestinian issue, internal debates, definitely. Opportunities is, for example, peace or rapprochement with Saudi Arabia, with other countries in the region or other Muslim countries in the wider region, let's put it that way. And these things are definitely an opportunity because they open the door for more legitimacy to the state of Israel as a Jewish state, and therefore for a dialogue and more understanding to our views and the challenges that we face. So I would say this is a great opportunity on the, let's say, political arena, but there's also Israel has a very good ecosystem for entrepreneurs, and we see now that many of capabilities that were invented or created in Israel contribute a lot to the global agenda, whether climate change or issues of women empowerment, such as femtech, for example. So this is, again, an opportunity because it opens the door for Israel to be more connected to global issues. And when you have conversation, when you have a dialogue about global challenges, so you can also put on the table your personal issues, and then people listen to you more. So I think this is definitely an opportunity. You stop saying your names.
Hi, Wendy Gerber. First, thank you very much for joining us today to share your insights. Really appreciate it. I believe it was last year we heard that even at a young age in the educational institutions, Israelis and Arabs were divided through education. And that would seem a tremendous way to start building bridges by emphasizing similarities, building bonds, connections, et cetera, at a young age. Is that still the case, and is there an opportunity to change that?
You mean divided in schools? Well, we have different streams of education. It's not just one stream of for Jews and one for Arabs or Muslims or whatever. Even within the Jewish education system, we have different streams. I think that's because we are a very diverse country, and each stream would like to keep its basic education to be and materials to be taught. We have religious, state religious, Haredi, etc. So there's also Arab. Means that the Arab community have their own prerogative to decide what they want to teach. Of course, if there's some basic things that must be on the curriculum, and it's a matter of independence to give everyone or every group or in the Israeli society the chance to express itself and to educate in its own way with some basic criteria of education. And of course we can also debate about that, if we still have the core elements in every stream. And I just want to say that again, for me it's heartwarming to see such a great involvement of yours, of what's happening in Israel. I mean, to ask about the education system, about threats and opportunities, because it means you're involved, it means you care, it means that the state of Israel is close to your heart and you're following what's happening there. And even if there's critic, it's still because you care. This is my impression, and it's heartwarming.
Hi, my name is Josh Levy. Thank you for coming to speak with us today. So right now, Donald Trump is running for re-election in the U.S. despite being under indictment for a variety of cases and incidents. In Israel, your prime minister is similarly legally embattled. So, barring any discussion of innocence or guilt in any of these cases, what lessons has Israel learned from going through this process with the legally challenged candidate, and what could we learn here in the U.S. from that?
Well, I wouldn't like to refer to the U.S. politics. We don't intervene in U.S. politics. You have your experience. We have ours. But again, I think that the fact that we have this kind of legal process in Israel, and we have this debate about whether the prime minister that has his legal issues and he can still be prime minister and run his trial, and the fact that there are these voices that are saying that he's not capable or this thing should be changed. So we have this debate. It's a good thing. We do have I'm not very proud of it in the sense that we have numerous politicians that were jailed for things they've done, but it just shows again the rule of law in the state of Israel. And the issue of the prime minister is, I have to be cautious with this word because I also studied law, but the issue with the prime minister and his capability to keep his position while running his trial, at least legally, is for the moment more or less clear. With ministers, it's a different story, not like the prime minister. But again, the fact that there's a debate about it, I think it's a good thing that you can hear the voices and you can hear them out loud and very loud. people that are saying, no, it's not okay, let's change it or let's challenge it.
Okay, we're coming to the close of our time, so I had seen 4 hands. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to group those 4 questions into 2. So we're going to take a couple of questions at once, and you can decide which ones you want to
Which one is the easiest?
Okay, all right, yeah.
Just talking, okay. Hi, I'm Claire Frankel. Thank you for coming. My question is there any organized group in Israel advocating writing a constitution that assigns specific powers to the specific lines of government?
Okay, don't answer that yet.
Apropos of your new role in Israeli-American relationships, I received a very disturbing news feed saying that the IDF would no longer be accepting donations from American friends of the IDF. I don't know if that's true, and if there is truth to that, what is the basis of that?
It's not true.
Okay, I'm going to add one more to that. Okay, so you got the Constitution, you got the FIDF, and one more question.
Thank you. My name is Michael Miller. I was in Israel after the Six-Day War, 1968, so this is more than half a century ago, and it was so inspiring. I felt so proud, the Wailing Wall, for the first time after all these centuries. You couldn't help but feel hope for the future. And talk about the question of opportunity. My question has to do with lost opportunity. What would you say the biggest mistake Israel has made in the last half century that's contributed to our present situation?
All right, so thank you. Question about, is there a group writing a constitution? Are FIDF's contributions be accepted? And what are the greatest lost opportunities?
Regarding the Constitution, what?
Is there a group working on drafting a constitution? That was the first.
There are many initiatives. For groups working on constitution or some kind. I just heard about initiative that's called Thin Constitution, which means it addresses specific questions of how do you legislate and regulating the basic laws and challenging the basic laws. So there are many initiatives. There's not a group that was assigned for this specific task, but again, now there are discussions between the supporters of these changes in the judiciary and the opposition, and there in these rooms they're not drafting constitution, but they're definitely tackling constitutional questions. So decisions that will be made out of these rooms will have some constitutional effects. That's why I started with it, because we did have the privilege for, let's say, 20 years, even more, 25 years, not to ask ourselves seriously and stop thinking of how we see our constitution. Maybe now it's the time to talk about it seriously. So we have precedents of the Supreme Court. Me myself, as a gay person, many rights that I have based on precedents of the Supreme Court, not legislation. Is that a good thing? I don't know. On one hand, it's not recognized by the legislator. On the other hand, I do have equal rights. I wish I had more, right? But it's still more progress than other countries. Again, it's a delicate balance, and we need to ask ourselves these questions. We didn't do it. We did have some junctions in which we had to ask ourselves these questions along these years, and most of the times we found like specific solutions that basically postponed the debate again and again and again, no matter by which government. So these constitutional issues are now very, very high on the agenda, and people are dealing with it. Maybe our time is over to postpone. But there are definitely some unofficial groups that are dealing with these questions.
And contributions through Friends of the Israel Defense Forces?
Not that I know.
They are being accepted?
Yes.
Yes, okay, good. And then the question of greatest missed opportunities of the last 50 years, which is maybe a lengthy question.
Many. Every day we have missed opportunities. I think that the most important thing is to know how to make from a lemon lemonade. But I can just describe you the situation. Let's say, I mean, we have opportunities that were not existing in the last 50 years, like that were realized right now, like Abraham Accords, like some rapprochement with Saudi Arabia. I mean, it's still not officially happening, but the fact that it's something that is real and can happen, that we talk about it. So this is definitely an opportunity that we take. Missed opportunities you have as a state, you have all the time, whether it's with the Palestinians, whether it's about internal debates, whether it's about economic opportunities that we missed. It's everywhere. It's every day, but not a specific thing that I can think of. Of course, we have missed opportunities.
All right, I'm going to combine the last two questions I saw back here, combine into one, and then we're going to wrap up. Okay, so Peter.
I'm Peter Webb. I wanted to welcome you and your husband to New York. But what are your three top accomplishments or things you want to accomplish during your tenure?
Okay, your three biggest goals to accomplish during your tenure, and the next and last question.
Sure. My name is Alex. Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
We heard a lot in Rabbi Davidson's sermon about how American Jews care about the whole of Israel, not just the Jewish community. Obviously, when you come here, you're speaking to Jews, so you speak mostly about Judaism and the Jewish community and Rosh Hashanah. But just a few words, about how, especially as you're stepping into this new role, about your outreach to the non-Jewish, constituencies that you might have here. Not just like the business community, but, maybe, Arab communities. There's a huge African diaspora here, and now there are Africans in Israel, who are not Jewish. So just, what's your outreach to those communities? How do you think about that?
Great, thank you. Those questions go well together.
Okay, they actually intertwine because this is one of our main goals, to enhance the connection and the dialogue with different communities. It's now very difficult to say what's communities. How do you define community? Can you say that African American is community? Women, is it a community? Latino communities, Asians are communities, LGBTQI plus community. So there are ways to address, I would say, different audience. And this is definitely high on our agenda, to expand the dialogue with different groups and audiences and communities in the 5 states that we are covering as a consulate. This is very, very high on the agenda. A part of it is interfaith dialogue, so another group or community or audience. And the outreach is very, very important to understand and to identify the common ground for a dialogue. And this is very, very high on the agenda if I go back to your question. The second thing is, of course, to maintain and enhance our connection as a consulate with different Jewish community, talking about big tent. So to have a open and fruitful discussion with all the communities, with all the different streams represented here in New York and in the states that we're covering. There's part of it is the security of the Jewish community, is combating anti-Semitism, is Holocaust remembrance issues, all of this. I have more, but you're focusing not on economy and other stuff.
I think there are skills that any diplomat can learn, but there are qualities of an individual that make them truly suited for the role, and that is a sensitivity to understand the community that you're representing, but also the concerns of the community that you're serving. And you clearly have that. And I mean, we're blessed that your posting is here. I want to just share one reflection on our relationship with the consulate, and then you should all go and have lunch. For years, well, actually, it's probably been, maybe it's been 5 years, we've been hosting every Yom HaZikaron, every Israel Memorial Day, which is the day before Israel Independence Day, a ceremony here that honors the memories of those who died during Israel's wars or those who were killed during terrorist attacks. It is a ceremony of extraordinary beauty and power because, as I think most Israelis will tell you, it's very hard to be anywhere but Israel on Yom HaZikaron. And we are privileged to be able to host that very moving service. For years, it was in the Lowenstein Auditorium, where many of us prayed this morning. The reason being that there were some within the more traditional Jewish community in New York who didn't want to daven in our sanctuary because they wouldn't set foot in a Reform sanctuary. Even though Lowenstein is a sanctuary too, they wouldn't set foot in the main sanctuary. Last year, the consulate in New York, the Israeli consulate, made a decision because of the strength of our relationship with the consulate and their understanding of just how hard we work to try to cultivate and nurture this love of Israel, that even if the ultra-Orthodox didn't want to come and set foot in our sanctuary, the consulate was going to have the service in our sanctuary because they understood that we may be Reformim, but we are Jews and we love Israel. And that's the sensitivity that the consulate in New York has demonstrated toward us. And I'm really so grateful that that's going to continue. So Tsach, Shana Tova u'mituka, we stand beside you. Shana Tova to all
Shana
of you.
Tova.
Good, sweet, happy, healthy. This was